Good evening. Welcome, everybody. This is the meeting of the Village of Thomaston Board of Trustees for a special meeting. And we are opening the meeting at 7:33 p.m. By law, I have to read the following public health statement. Due to the public health and safety concerns related to COVID-19 and pursuant to New York State law, this meeting of the Board of Trustees is not being held in person. The board is meeting by video conferencing. The meeting is being recorded and a transcription will be provided at a later date. The public has the opportunity to observe this meeting live online and to submit comments pursuant to instructions given on the village website and in the meeting notice. The village administrator will now call the roll for attendance at this meeting by members of the Board of Trustees and relevant village staff.
Mayor Weinberg,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sharkey,
Here.
Trustee Thomaston,
Here.
Trustee Pang,
Here.
Trustee Burton Weston,
Here.
Village Attorney A. Thomas Levin,
Here.
and I am Denise Noland, Village Administrator. Quorum of the board is in attendance and the board may begin the business of the meeting.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 14th, 2022 meeting?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Jill, would you read the resolution, please?
Oh, no. You know what? I don't have the script with me.
I'll read it in.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Resolve that
work.
the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting held on February 14th, 2022 as amended are hereby approved and accepted for filing. Is there any comments, questions, or corrections with respect to the minutes? Hearing none, call the question. Denise, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Sharkey,
Aye.
Trustee Thomaston,
Aye.
Trustee Pang,
Aye.
Trustee Weston,
Aye.
Mayor Weinberg,
Aye.
5 votes in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is adopted.
Okay. The village received small claims assessment review decisions, also known as SCAR decisions, for refunds based upon a lowering of an assessment. This is for it is for the 21-22 tax year, and since we're coming to the close of the tax year, there are also new assessments going forward for the 2022-23 tax roll. So I'd like to make a motion. We have, and the Board of Trustees has had the opportunity to review the decisions of the SCAR hearing officer. The decision was as of February 1st, 2022. Upon motion of Mayor Weinberg, resolved that the Board of Trustees directs the village administrator to correct the tax roll with the new assessment indicated by the hearing officer in the various SCAR decisions dated February 1st, 2022, and to carry these new assessments forward into the 2022-23 tax roll. And it is further resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the payment of refunds of the 2021-22 tax year in the aggregate amount of $4,762.05, reflecting the difference between the original and amended bills, plus award of court costs in the aggregate amount of $660. And it is further resolved that the village administrator shall issue refunds to the applicant's representatives. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
Yes, I do. I
Yeah.
think in the past, I saw the review, only a handful of them will be successful. Majority will be no change, no reduction. But this year is the reverse. Does anyone know what happened?
Sorry, I don't know what you mean by this year, it will be worse. Are you
No,
referring to, which
no,
year are
reverse.
you referring to?
Reverse what I mean is, on a lot of the scale application, in the past few years, only a few of the residents will get a reduction in the village tax. Majority of them will get no change. But this year is reversed, it's the other way around. Majority get some reduction. A minority will get no change. So I'm just wondering, is it the county make some change or what happened? Why this change?
Okay, Tom, is that something you can answer, or Denise? can
I'm
you
not,
chat?
I'm not really sure because my office doesn't do these hearings. They're done by our consultant at Haberman Associates, but
Right,
each one of them, I think a lot of it depends on who the hearing officers are and what they're doing generally, the policy of the hearing officers generally on cases. And of course, the assessments were made some years ago. The village doesn't reassess every year. That's a prohibitively expensive process. So values change, and the comparison of properties one to another can get out of whack just due to the passage of time and changes in the market. Some properties go up more than others, some go down. So the assessments that might be good one year, the very same assessment the next year might not be as accurate. So you're going to find over the years that your role will probably become more and more out of line with the actual values that are being proven based on sales, actual sales that have been going on. And eventually you reach the point where you may need to go out and reevaluate everybody again and establish a new role.
I just had a question about why only a few of them got fire tax refunds. Why is
North
that?
of
Those-
the, north of the
those-
tracks.
Oh, okay, so that's, those 4 properties are in that, okay,
and that's for the vigilant contract.
understood.
I just want to note that to the extent the schedule is going to be appended and become part of the minutes, the last column, the individual itemization of total refunds is incorrect. It's double. The aggregate number at the bottom is correct, but the total refunds per person, I think what they've done is aggregate the village tax refund and total tax refund, and then added award of cost. So those individual numbers need to be corrected. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Denise, did you have anything to add in response to Ben's question?
One of the reasons that I think we had so many is because there was a change. The state provides every year a residential assessment ratio, and ours went down quite a bit from prior years. So that would play a factor in the way they calculate the market value.
And I think given rising market values, your RAR, the residential assessment ratio, is likely to continue to go down. Everybody's is, because values are
Right.
going up and your assessments are
Right.
staying the same. So they become a
Right.
smaller percentage of the value.
And
Mhm.
I'd also like to note that this is, in terms of the line item in the budget for tax refunds, this is well within the line item on the budget.
Okay. That was a question.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Hearing none, Denise, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Sharkey,
Aye.
Trustee Monison,
Aye,
Trustee Pang,
Aye.
Trustee Weston,
Aye.
Mayor Weinberg. Mayor Weinberg,
Aye.
5 votes in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is adopted.
Okay.
We now come to the third item on the agenda, the public hearing to review the determination of the Landmarks Preservation Commission concerning 124 South Middle Neck Road. It is now 7:42, and we'll call the public hearing into session.
If we could, when we start, since people were interested the last time the trustees had hearings and at the Landmark Commission hearings, just to note, there are 52 other participants on the call at this point.
Thank you. I'd like to read a brief statement. This is a public hearing to affirm or modify the report and recommendation of the Landmark Preservation Commission. The report and recommendation is dated February 8th, 2022. I'd like to let members of the public know that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the Landmark Commission meetings, and the Board of Trustees, each trustee has reviewed the report and recommendation. This is the public hearing. It's the opportunity for the public to comment on the report and recommendation. The report is thorough in its analysis. It's balancing and weighing of multiple factors. The Village Board of Trustees' task tonight their task is to determine whether to affirm or modify the report after this public hearing, where we will hear public comment on the report. The report and the recommendation described and stated that the building fits the definition of a landmark, and our village residents in the neighborhood that are where the building or proposed where 124 South Middle Neck Road exists have made very strong comments and commitment to preserve that very building. The existing auto dealership is a non-conforming use, and that land is zoned in a district for residential homes and for an apartment building. The commission, and in its report, weighed factors as to whether the existing building may be repurposed for an apartment building, or whether the existing building may continue its use as an auto dealership, or may, if a variance is allowed, may change its commercial use and be repurposed for another use at that site. In addition, the report also weighed factors relating to the impact of landmarking on the cost of redevelopment, the impact of landmarking on the village tax base, and the impact of landmarking on the repurposing of the building, and the impact on zoning. Please keep in mind that any future proposals may be subject to the commission's input, will certainly be subject to the community's input, and maybe also be subject to the input of other boards with respect to zoning or use variances. I'm going to ask the public to assume that the Board of Trustees, again, has observed the Landmark Commission meetings and presentations, and to please limit, we are going to ask, because we have a number of people here, to limit your comments to 2 minutes. And this way, everyone will have a chance to weigh in. If you find that the comments you are going to be the same as someone else has made, if you could kindly reference that, that would help in terms of the public hearing, and then the board having an opportunity to deliberate and make its decision with respect to this important task. With that in mind, I'd like to turn this over to the public and hear their comments.
We have one hand raised so far, Mayor. I think we should let people know if anyone wants to speak, they should use the raised hand feature on chat, and then we will get to them all in order. At the moment, there are 3. So should I just bring them in order?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Just
the first
one at
one
a
is,
time, please.
the first one is Roland Bryn.
I will be the timekeeper, and I will let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Bryn, you should be getting okay, he's coming in now. Mr. Bryn, you'll have to unmute.
Yeah, I've unmuted.
There we go.
Okay, so I guess I'm first up, and I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to make a brief comment. First, I think it's positive that the it's a positive thing that the commission went along with the recommendations of experts and the community in designating the property as a landmark. And I think it's a credit to Thomaston and to your stewardship to maintain that designation and to find a suitable use for the property going forward that pleases the community in the sense that they have many ideas that they would like to implement at that location on their own behalf and the behalf of Thomaston. So my only concern is that somewhere along the line, you modify it or change it, and we revert back to the original position that caused so much of the discord in the community. So I think it's on the government's shoulders now to move ahead in the manner that the community has outlined for it. And thank you for the opportunity to speak again.
Thank you. Next,
Okay, the next one would be Andrew Cronin. I'm sorry, Crossan, I mispronounced.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Cronson, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight and having had the opportunity to speak before. I appreciate your consideration and deliberation for Tower Ford. What we have now is a remarkable and powerful opportunity to protect one of Great Neck's most important historic resources for future generations. Unlike the Great Neck Playhouse or the Brickman Estate, there is a solid, justified legal framework to codify the building's future and broad public support in favor of doing so from both residents and outside of the village. You've heard from numerous names, including preeminent experts who all agreed with the same conclusion. Belgrave Motors deserves to be landmarked. While a variance may be needed for redevelopment in many cases, there are myriad possibilities for the future of the building that are both profitable and respectful of the past. The hand-picked commission for landmarks was unanimous in their conclusion that it deserves to be protected. Even more so than ever before, this threat has truly awakened the community to the frangible state of our shared history. There was always a tacit understanding that some places were sacrosanct. No one ever thought that somewhere so remarkable, one of Great Neck's most beloved buildings, would be lost, and we have now all taken notice. It is our call to action and one of the many to come. I'm reminded of Roger and Peggy Gary, who transformed Roslyn from a village on the literal brink of obliteration to one that is a model for all of New York. We would be remiss to not seize this moment and follow in their footsteps. It is not too early nor too late to imagine a beautiful new future for Thomaston. I urge the approval of this landmark and affirmation by this board without haste. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, next is Nancy Solomon. Ms. Solomon, you have to unmute, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some of you may know me because I've been working as an architectural historian and cultural ethnographer with Village of Great Neck Plaza, Seacliff, Rockville Center, and other municipalities on Long Island. The fate of the Tower Ford Belgrave Motors building is an important one because of the high architectural style of this early 20th century Tudor revival structure in Great Neck. While other showrooms have survived, including the Cadillac showroom further up Middle Neck Road, as well as others in the village of Roslyn and surrounding villages. The Tower Ford building is exceptional in retaining many of its original architectural details. And as other architectural historians have pointed out, and will also speak this evening, We strongly support the designation of this outstanding building as a landmark in the village of Thomaston. We know that there are several potential uses for the structure, such as a conversion to lofts or apartments, as was done at Landmark on Main Street in Port Washington, and again, other structures. So we hope you will consider the Landmarks Commission's recommendation to landmarking this building and taking advantage of the numerous architects and historic preservationists who have very in-depth experience in converting these kinds of structures for public use and private use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Ellen Monis. Ms. Monis, you need to unmute, please.
Yes,
Thank
I'm muted. It was my understanding that economics was not part of the decision for landmarking, that had nothing to do with landmarking. Am I right or wrong?
Ms. Monis, the board is taking public comments. So if you have any comments, the board would be happy to listen to them.
Okay, well, I understood that economics is not involved in making it a landmark building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Aaron Egelman. Mr. Egelman, you need to unmute, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, my name is Aaron Egelman. I'm a resident of the village of Thomaston and both a shareholder and board member at 37 Brompton, the adjoining property. I'd just like to voice my wholehearted support for the landmarking of the Belgrave Motors building. You know, this is in my mind, this is one of those rare occasions where all the stars have aligned precisely. You know, more or less the entire community, every expert who has looked at the property and the board's handpicked landmark committee have all signaled that that this is a property that should be landmarked for the posterity of all village residents. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Okay, just one moment. Let me check and see where we are. We actually have Mr. Chagrin just raised his hand, so he's next.
Sure. Can you also, Tom, give us an update on count?
Let me just do my math here. It's 61.
Thank you.
Mr. Chagrin should be coming in. There he is. Please unmute, Mr. Chagrin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for the opportunity. I agree that this should be a landmark. You know, I've been in Thomaston for over 20 years with my wife. And when we tell people that we're in Thomaston and they say to us, we're in Thomaston, and I always say near the Tower Ford Belgrave building as a point of reference. And no matter where I speak, I have friends all across the country. They all say, oh, I remember that building from when I was a child. Oh, that's a great memory. Oh, that's a wonderful landmark. And so while there may be many reasons why you would think that it's no longer viable or landmark of importance, it is important. It's a keystone to this community. And it's something that I would prefer not losing. There are so many other buildings that we have lost to history, not just in Great Neck, but all over. Why would we lose the first car dealership on Long Island that really spurred the growth of our community and kept us as a viable community? So thank you very much for the opportunity. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple more now. Alka is next.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Alka Jane. I would like to just note for everyone that it's taken a very, very long journey to get to this. And I feel that the board needs to take into account that this is just the first step of many other buildings in Thomaston that need to be recognized and preserved. I know that there was a lot of acrimony over this one because of the history and the way that the permits were granted to try and destroy the building. But at the bottom line is that there is overwhelming public interest in maintaining the history of this town and this village. And the board needs to maybe set aside a separate budget going forward for landmarking activities and to preserve the history of this village. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, just want to note that no permits were granted for anything to be done with this building, just for the record. Next, well, Mr. Byrne is on again. I assume you want to hear people who have not spoken yet first?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, so the next one is Mr. Bancroft. All right, just wait, his audio is connecting. Mr. Bancroft, you're on mute, so you have to unmute, please.
Of course, thank you so much.
Got it, thanks.
Thank you to the trustees and the mayor for having this special meeting. I was engaged to regard, I am a historic preservation expert from New York City. I was engaged to look at the significance and the possibility of whether or not this building met the code of the Thomaston, and indeed it does very much as is supported. I would like to actually take a moment just to say that rarely, I've worked in all 5 boroughs of New York with dozens and dozens of communities. Rarely have I seen such a widespread support for a building, a commercial building too. And in discussing what I was doing with friends of mine and colleagues throughout the metropolitan area, they all knew the Tower Ford building. They were all very familiar with it. There were people who had bought cars there. There were people like, oh yeah, that one when I drive up. So this is indeed a landmark with a small L. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the Village of Thomaston to make this into landmark 0, landmark number 1 for the first designated landmark of the town. Thank you very much. And thank you for holding this hearing.
Thank you.
Next is Julie G. Okay, you need to unmute, please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Julie Georgopoulos. I wanted to thank you all for actually moving forward with this and holding all these meetings. I just wanted to just make one clarification. I think that this is something that came across when the historians were doing their research in Nassau County. This lot was actually modified. The zoning of this lot was modified and was recorded in Nassau County in 1930. So they specifically designated this lot to be in a business zone from an apartment zone. So I'm not really sure why the statement is being made that's a non-conforming use, because actually the zoning was modified to make this a commercial lot and a commercial property. So maybe I would suggest, or, I don't know what the process is, that it's not listed in the landmarking determination as to the zoning the zoning requirements of this property, because in fact, it was modified to accommodate a commercial property. Thank you.
Thank
Mayor, if
you.
you'd like me to address that,
I
will.
would, yes, please.
The current zoning of, I don't know what happened in 1930, but the current zoning of the property is split zoned. It's partly apartment and partly residence. It is not, none of it is zoned commercial at the present time. Has not been for years. I've been representing Thomaston on and off since 1980, and it's always been zoned that way. Next is Jeffrey Schwartz. Please unmute, Mr. Schwartz.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Schwartz. I'm the board president, excuse me, the co-op at 1 Overlook Avenue, which is diagonally across the street from Tower Ford. I lived in the building. I don't know if I'm chagrined or to say that over 40 years, so I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. I used to bring my car to Tower Ford, but I just want to commend the board and the Landmarks Preservation for recommending that the Tower Ford be landmarked. I believe it's very important to maintain the character of this neighborhood and preserve this building. And I think that any other course would be detrimental to the village and to the area. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next up is Lori. Okay, you're unmuted. Please proceed.
Here.
Your sound may not be on. We're not hearing you. No, I think there's a sound problem and we're not hearing you.
Mm-mm.
Tom, is there an alternate? Can she call in?
She could, or she could go out and sign back in again. I'm not sure because it doesn't show muted, but we're not hearing.
That's right.
Well, suppose we go out and come back to the next person and
Sure.
Lori
Does she
can
have the?
try
I
signing.
apologize.
She can try signing back in again.
Try that, and or where should she look for the number to call in?
Denise, do you have that handy?
It's 646-558-8656. If she can hear us, you could put it in the chat.
The chat's turned off.
Oh, okay, sorry, forget it. I don't know, Lori, if you can hear us and you want to call in, the number is 646-558-8656. And the webinar ID is 856-7686-9336. I don't know if she can hear us.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll take it out and if she signs back in and raises hand again, we'll come back.
Okay. Any other passcodes, Jill, that she needs, or that should be it?
I don't think so. I'm just reading from the
Invite.
invite.
Okay. All right, Aaron Halpern is next.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Halpern, please unmute. Okay.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for holding this hearing. I just want to echo the sentiments of the other members of the public who have expressed their opinions supporting the landmark designation for this property. Significantly, this is one of those situations where there has been unanimous support for the landmark designation. You have expert consultants retained by both the village and the public, independent consultants who have independently all reached the same conclusion that this building satisfies in every respect the village's landmark code. In addition to that, you have the unanimous support of landmark designation by the community, who have expressed in no uncertain terms that this building is necessary to maintain the character of our village and our community. The determination that had been made by the Landmark Commission details the various factors, all of the factors, frankly, that are subject to this evaluation and favored landmark designation for this property. And I think that the decision as far as what to do here is pretty clear. I think that the building should be designated as a landmark, and the structure should be protected so that it comports with what the very meaning of our landmark code was enacted to do, which is to protect the viability, appearance, character, and architectural significance of buildings like the Tower Ford building. And I just want to thank the board and the members of the public for all participating in this really necessary process here, so that the community members were each allowed to voice their opinions relating to this building and what will come about here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nancy Sherman is next. Ms. Sherman, you need to unmute. Everybody, just so you understand, when you move in as a panelist, you're automatically muted, so you have to unmute. It applies to everyone.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to start by thanking the Landmark Commission for their determination the Tower Ford should be designated as a landmark. I know it was a long process. The experts and the public have spoken all in favor of landmarking this building. And the reasoning by the experts is detailed and clear. The community is united in support of this. In fact, there is absolutely no opposition to landmarking this building in the record before this Board of Trustees. There is not even opposition by the owner or the developer in the record to the landmarking of Tower Ford building. I agree with Alka that preserving the buildings in Great Neck is now paramount in the community's mind, as Great Neck is seeking to maintain a small town village feel. And as a whole, in Great Neck and also in Thomaston in particular, people do not want to turn this community into large apartment complexes. That's not the goal in our community. And residents of Thomaston have stood up and have fought long and hard, first to invalidate the incentive use law, and next to have this building landmarked. So I would hope at this time that the Board of Trustees would listen to the public and affirm the commission's determination and landmark this building. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other hands up at the moment.
Okay. We will.
Oh, sorry, Wendy Halpern just raised her hand.
Okay.
And we have one more after that.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I guess one of the benefits of going close to last in this hearing is that I don't need to repeat what everybody else has said, but just to go over some bullet points. As you all know, this has been a very long process. The community has really rallied together, fought very hard, almost daily, to save this building and to oppose the incentive law and to strongly oppose the application that's been withdrawn. I don't want to repeat all of what we've gone through for the last 7 or 8 months. I'm glad we're at this stage. you know, as everyone before me has said, it's pretty well settled that every entity and commission and expert and organization and individual community member and groups of community members have all feel that this meets the village's definition of landmark. As Nancy said, there's no opposition from the building owner. And I also want to reiterate that this is a thriving auto dealership. So I don't want anyone to have any impression whatsoever that this is a vacant building or that it's going out of business or anything like that. I live down the road from this business and it's very active. And so there's no risk, at least that we see, that this is going to be a vacant building. So I don't see that that's really part of the analysis at all, especially since the building owner hasn't even presented any financial impact facts at all. You know, during this process, I want to say that I've learned to really appreciate Great Neck. We've been living here for almost 20 or so years, and the small town feel and village is so unique and special to all of us, and that's why we live here. And the threat to that is very hurtful to us. And you see how the community rallied against this. And I think that, you know, as I drive by the Tower Ford building every day and walk past it, I have a real appreciation for the history and the history that we can all save and be leaders here. Because as you all know, this story has been picked up by Newsday, by publications in New York City, in various social media groups, and we can all be examples here in a positive way, right? We could put Great Neck on the map as a good example, as a community that wants to preserve the architecture and the physical layout of where we live. And I think that it's a real opportunity for us to be leaders here and step up and set a good example. And as the others have said, there's a lot of other historical buildings in Thomaston and in Great Neck, and I think this is just the start. And we could look to the Great Neck Plaza and Roslyn as examples, and we could be like that also. We don't want to be known as the village that tore down a building so that a huge apartment building could go up in its place. Again, I thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope that you all do the right thing here. Thanks.
Thank you.
We've got three. Lynn Zisman is next.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I've lived in Thomaston for about 40 years, and it is unanimous that the community, all the experts, New York State, and the Thomaston Landmark Commission have all agreed to landmark this building. This building is the gateway to Great Neck. It is the first landmark building that you see as you enter our town. I think it is very, very important that the trustees please agree to landmark this building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Cronson's next, but he already spoke. Laura Blum would be next. All right, Ms. Blum, you need to unmute, please. Thank you. Oh, you're muted again. Sorry.
There you go.
Okay, now it's good.
Okay. I live in the plaza, not in Thomaston, but I feel so strongly about what's going on in Great Neck, the overdevelopment. I've lived here for 30 years. I'm so heartbroken about what's happened to this area. It is no longer, in my mind, a small town environment. There was that monstrosity built across from the Great Neck Diner is just awful. It just closes in the whole area. So that's why I decided to come to this meeting. I really don't want to live in Queens or Manhattan. I want to live in a more intimate, familial setting where maybe you can know your neighbors and you're not anonymous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the only raised hand is Mr. Cronson, who spoke already. So should we bring him in for a second time?
Yeah.
Sure, if he could be brief so we can
Okay.
get to the business at hand.
Done.
Thank you for allowing me a second time. I did intend to be brief. I just wanted to say, in addition to what I had said before, that really, when you look at this landmark designation, there is the sense, or at least there was a sense, that it was sort of reacting to the new development. But I really see it in a different way, that it really is a chance, by landmarking in full, following the recommendation in full that the Landmarks Commission had given, the opportunity to say, look what we did to make a better future for Thomaston and Great Neck. It's not even so much for my generation, it's for even generations beyond me to go back to this square, to go to Belgrave Square and say, wow, look at this amazing building that we have. Look at our heritage that will be here for generations after us. And that's really what this is about. And I think there's no better way to come together as a community across generations, political parties, across all experiences, because we all agree. And I think it's really such a fantastic opportunity. And I hope this board can give it the full consideration and follow the expert and public opinion in this regard. Again, thank you very much for allowing me to speak again and for hearing me.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no other raised hands, Mayor.
Okay. We will close the public hearing.
A motion, please, for that.
Make a motion, Mr. Mayor,
Is there a
to
second?
close the hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comments or discussion on the motion? Denise, call the roll. Denise, call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Sharkey,
Aye.
Trustee Monison,
Aye.
Trustee Pang,
Aye.
Trustee Weston,
Aye.
Mayor Weinberg.
Aye.
5 votes in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is adopted.
Okay.
Um,
Now,
I'm sorry, can I just make a comment?
Sure.
We just vote aye for the resolution, but did we spell out that?
We just voted aye to close the hearing.
To close the public
Just to
hearing.
close the hearing.
Okay, got it, okay.
Now is the time for the board to comment and discuss whether it wishes to affirm or whether there's a basis or wishes to seek to modify any part of the report and recommendation. As I stated in my opening statement, setting the tone for the hearing, the report and recommendation did weigh many factors that may impact whether or not there should be a landmark designation for 124 South Middle Neck Road. And after weighing and going through a thorough analysis and balancing all of the multiple factors, the report and the recommendation was that 124 South Middle Neck Road be landmarked pursuant to Chapter 120 of the Village Code as a landmark property. And now is the time for us to act. My personal view is that I agree with the report and its balancing of all of the factors that were discussed in the report and its recommendation. And my personal view is that there should be an affirmance of 124 South Middle Neck Road as a landmark property. I am interested in hearing other views of other board members and so that we could determine whether we should affirm or modify.
I'll speak briefly. I think one, as a board, and I individually really take note of first, the extensive expert opinion that we've received across the board and the unanimity of that expert opinion. One, that the building itself warrants a landmark that falls within the definition of landmark, and some who've expressed the view that it warrants a landmark designation. I think secondly, we need to take note of the broad public support, and that goes without question. And again, unanimous public support for its designation. There's always a concern because of the designation that it requires added costs to put to a reuse. There's always a risk it falls into disrepair. I, however, believe that there's certainly enough economic incentive on the part of an owner, developer, the community, and the government to find commonality and to ensure that the property itself is either continued in its present use or put to a sound reuse moving forward. Has been pointed out, it is really the entryway into Great Neck. It's a building of note and one that people take note of. And I think that importance can't be overlooked. So in the end, I'm of the view that the recommendation of the commission should be affirmed. And I thank really everybody for their input and time and effort that's been expended in this process. It's not been one without difficulty. So thank you, everyone, and I look forward to the vote.
I'll piggyback on to Bert's comments and just again reiterate my gratitude to all the people that spent their time and efforts detailing everything in this report and the thoughtful comments of the residents. And we appreciate everybody's decorum in having all these hearings. And we know that it's been a very long process, but I think that in the end, the result is going to be the right one.
Jim, Ben, comments?
I've read through all of the documentations, particularly the chairman's notations that the Landmark Commission that prepared, and I am in fully agreement that this building does deserve landmark preservation, and I so vote that we proceed with that notation in mind. I'd also like to thank the public in general for their patience with the board and with the various committees that have worked so arduously on this particular project. And I think at the end of the day, the village will be proud of what we've done here tonight, and we'll have preserved for posterity a beautiful building that all of us can be proud of saying, this is my home, this is Thomaston.
Ben?
Yeah, I think I agree to designate this building as a landmark. I think during the hearings, I saw overwhelming public support to landmark this building. I think this is a beautiful building. It will be a part of Village of Thomaston for a long time.
I certainly join in everyone's comments by the board. I certainly appreciate the public's patience. I certainly know everyone worked very hard. There is a procedure that is followed, and there always was and will be a procedure that will be followed. And this board will always listen to the community and what the community wants in terms of any proposal that is before it. That's always been paramount in my actions, in my view, and in every member of this board's view. That would be our goal in the future with respect to any future proposal or activity. So I thank the public for its patience and for its professionalism in terms of its discourse and in terms of its discussion and presentation. And that is always a welcome starting and ending point. Being that it appears that the board is unanimous and there is no interest in or suggestion or basis to modify the report or recommendation, I would like to make a motion. Whereas the Village of Thomaston Landmarks Preservation Commission heretofore has considered requests to designate premises 124 South Middle Neck Road, Thomaston, New York, the premises as a landmark property pursuant to Village Code Chapter 120. And whereas the commission has issued its determination dated February 8, 2022, recommending designation of the premises as a landmark. And whereas pursuant to the Village Code Chapter 120, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Thomaston is vested with the authority after a public hearing to approve or modify the determination. And whereas the board has reviewed and is familiar with the record of the public proceedings held by the commission preceding the adoption of the determination. And whereas on February 24th, 2022, the board duly held and concluded the public hearing required by Village Code Chapter 120. And whereas the members of the board have given due consideration to the proceedings held before the commission and the board. And whereas pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act and its implementing regulations set forth in 6 NYCRR Part 617, collectively SECRA, the board is required to give consideration to potential environmental impacts of such landmarking action to the extent applicable pursuant to SECRA. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.5 parentheses C parentheses 38, designation of local landmarks in the or their inclusion within historic districts is classified as a type 2 action. And whereas matters which are classified as type 2 actions are not required to undergo any separate environmental impact review. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby finds and concludes that its consideration of the determination which designated the premises as a landmark property pursuant to the Village Code Chapter 120 is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA. And it is further resolved that no further separate review of environmental impacts is required with respect to the proposed action, and SECRA review of the proposed action is hereby concluded. And it is further resolved that upon review of the information received and proceedings held before the commission and the information adduced at the public hearing before the board finds and concludes that the determination by the commission was reasonable and proper based upon the proceedings held by and before the commission. And it is further resolved, based upon the foregoing proceedings before the commission and the board, and for the reasons stated by the commission in the determination, the board further concludes that the determination of the commission should be and hereby is approved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or discussion or questions about the resolution? Hearing none, Denise, please call the roll, call the question.
Deputy Mayor Sharkey,
Aye.
Trustee Monison,
Aye.
Trustee Pang,
Aye.
Trustee Weston,
Aye.
Mayor Weinberg.
Aye.
Okay, 5 votes in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is adopted.
Good.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay, Denise, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Sharkey,
Aye.
Trustee Monison,
Aye.
Trustee Pang,
Aye.
Trustee Weston,
Aye.
Mayor Weinberg.
Aye.
5 votes in favor, 0 opposed. The motion is adopted. The meeting is closed.
Once again, I thank the public for all their hard work, and I thank the board, and I thank the commission for their professionalism throughout. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.